Kenny. Let us know where you've seen it in the comments down below, but for now, let's get on with the show. Hi guys, welcome to Ask the Camera Guy. My name is Steven, the Camera Guy, and today we're going to be talking about lenses. Guys, welcome back to the show. Now, the thing is, right, today we're going to be talking about the different types of lenses and what I do normally to try to see which type of lens I'm going to use for any which situation, okay? So in my hands, I have like this humongous thing. It's a 200mm lens. It's actually a 70 to 200. It's a pretty expensive lens, and I also have a 28mm lens. And you might be wondering, like, why is it that I call these millimeters? What's the millimeters about? And I'm not gonna get too much into the science of it. And that's just how we measure the focal distance of each lens. And the focal distance has to do, let's just say the zoom, because that's gonna be the easiest way for everybody to understand. This is a 200mm lens, meaning that it zooms much further in than this 28mm lens, okay? So a 28mm lens is registered as a wide-angle lens, and a 70 to 200mm lens is more or less a telephoto lens, which means it's like really, really close up, and we use it to like get really, really close to the action, or really, really close in portraiture to do like face shots or half snaps and so on. So why would I use any of these lenses in any situation? Now, of course, you know, a wider angle lens would give you a wider angle of view so that you could take in more with the picture. But the drawback to that is that the wider the angle of the lens, anything that is closer to you is going to be really emphasized. So if you take a wide angle lens and you get really, really close to somebody, their face is going to be stretched out and they're going to have huge noses and they're going to look like a caricature, like a, you know, one of those cartoons. So that's what wide angle lenses do. But in some situations, you might need a wide angle lens because you need to take in as much information or as wide as possible. So sometimes, like if you're shooting interiors, you don't have a choice but to use a wide angle lens in those situations. Or if you're getting a group shot and you're very, very close to the people, then you might not have a choice but to use a wide angle lens. But if you want to get more realistic sort of lenses, then there are also middle of the road lenses or normal focal length lenses, like the 50mm, or, you know, 50mm is right smack dab in the middle. So a 50mm lens is going to give you an angle of view that looks like what your eyes would normally see, all right? Now we use those lenses like 50mm, we use also like 35mm, which is more or less on the wide side, but it's just enough to give you that nice depth, nice width, but also like gives you a realistic portrayal of how people's proportions are. Now, no matter what you use in terms of lenses, if you go with a telephoto or a wide angle lens, you just have to be like really, really, really careful in terms of what we call distortion or barrel distortion, all right? Now, barrel distortion has to do with that same principle that I was talking about earlier, where when you get too close with a wide angle lens, you distort everything. It's like you stretch your subject out. So if you're going to use a wide angle lens, you might want to just take a step back from your subject so that, and it might be that you have to put them directly in the middle of the frame so that you don't have them distorted on the edges, all right? That's what happens when you use wide angle lenses. Now, telephoto lenses are my favorite because they do what we call compression with a scene, which telephoto lenses make things look closer than they actually are. And because they do that, they also enhance like the depth of field of your subject. You know, basically how much things are in focus in the frame. So shallow depth of field is when you only have your subject or a specific part of the picture in focus, all right? And that everything else just gets thrown out of acceptable focus. Now with telephoto lenses, because they compress the scene, which means because they make everything look closer together, all right, what they do is they enhance the shallow depth of field concept, which means it's easier for you with a telephoto lens to get a shallow depth of field than it is with a wide angle lens. In fact, it's very, very difficult to get a shallow depth of field or that creamy bokeh or that creamy out of focus feel with a wide angle lens. In fact, the wider the lens, the wider the angle, it's going to be way more difficult. In fact, even adding to that, if you want to get everything, you know, more or less sharp, it's very easy to accomplish it with a wide angle lens, because wide angle lenses do what we call expansion, which is they make everything look further away. When it comes to lenses, lenses exist both in photography and in film, and they have very similar characteristics in both. So a wide angle lens behaves very similar to a wide-angle lens in film and a wide-angle lens in photography behave very similarly. And one place that you could look for to see how the wide-angle effect really emphasizes scale and emphasizes distance is a Busta Rhymes video from the 90s. Any Busta Rhymes video really, because he used a lot of wide-angle lens to really emphasize his movements in front of the camera. So his face would move really wild, his hands would be like really emphasized and big and huge in comparison with everything else. So that's one way you can see where wide-angle lenses shine. They give a very caricature, very unrealistic portrayal of how things look. But a telephoto lens, or even from regular 50mm all the way down to 800mm, what they do is they give you a very pinpoint look of the world, and they de-emphasize a distance by making things look closer together. So why do I use anything? What influences my choices when I'm out in the field using different lenses? Sometimes a lot of why I use different lenses has to do with the situation I'm facing. So if I'm in a situation where I have to use a wide-angle lens, I will use a wide-angle lens. If I'm at a wedding and I need to get a shot from a distance and I don't want to interrupt the moment, I don't want to be too close, then I'm definitely going to be using a telephoto. Most of the times though, I'll tell you this, you could probably pull off an entire wedding with a 50mm lens. I've never done it because, you know, you tend to want to stick into one focal length too long, then you start to get like kind of bored. So shifting up your focal length could actually shift up the way that you compose things, and it could also shift up the way that you approach things as well. So this is a telephoto lens, this is a wide-angle lens, and there are 50mm lens that exist in between of the spectrum. You could use whatever lens you want. You could break the rules. You could use a wide-angle lens to do close-ups if you want to. You could use a telephoto lens to do wide shots. I've done it, and it works pretty well. So there are really no hard and fast rules. All right, so you guys have been watching Ask the Camera Guy, and as usual, if you want, you could share, like, subscribe. You could drop a comment down below if you have any questions whatsoever. I'm always willing to answer you guys' questions, and I'm always willing to hear from you. If you want, you could also touch the bell button, just give it a nice little click, and you could tell every time that we post a new video, and you could get your camera education on, you know, almost absolutely for free. All right, so guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys learned something, so hope you enjoyed the video. And my name as well is Stephen Smith, and peace. No gang signs. Secret confession, I want my son to dance ballet.